Hold on. Is this working? Who knows? Hello. Hi. What day is it? Tuesday? Or is it Wednesday? Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Hi, thanks for being on here. So I am going to be talking to, here she is, hopefully she'll be joining soon, Dr. Sherina Balaratnam, who, as I've been documenting on, I've been seeing for a while now, for about the last 2 months maybe, to experience a treatment called EMSCULPT NEO. There she is. Hi. Oh, can you hear me? Hello, caller. I can see you. You're a bit
Can you hear
buffery.
Me, Jo?
Yeah, I know Nadine's on as well. Not very well. Do you want to turn up your sound a little bit? I don't know, you're buffering just a bit. I've now turned up my sound at maxi volume, which probably means that you're going to deafen me, but let's have a go. So while the doctor gets off the buffering zone, if you've seen my grid post and you've seen, I've done two, the most recent one I did I posted last night was just about this treatment that I've been having called EMSCULPT NEO. I had seen the Desperate Housewives? Real Housewives. I always call it that. I'd seen the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and I'd seen Lisa Rinna getting this treatment done. I'd never heard of it before, and it was on her arse, and I just thought, I had to have this. It looks great, because I've always been fine with what's back behind there, mostly because I can't see it. But the older I've got, the more I've noticed that it's just non-existent, and there's nothing more that I can do in terms of exercise to make it lift it, fill it out, anything, because I've tried it all and it just doesn't work. So right, is that better?
Good evening, Jo.
No. Oh, I think you're buffering again. Is that better? Are you there? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Okay, I'll just keep on talking and talking and talking, because actually, I can hear you, yes, but it's not a great signal. It's a bit buffering.
I think we're.
And I know it's not me, because I've had a very.
Yes,
okay, I know it's not me, because I've had a very expensive
but you're a bit buffery
Wi-Fi.
too.
I'm on
sure we'll
full Wi-Fi mode, so it might be your connection, because I've just spent an absolute fortune getting Virgin, the fastest broadband you can imagine, on my computer. In my office, so
this should be fine. Almost.
No, you're buffering. I'm really sorry. You might need to drop out and then try and come back in again.
I will do, Jo.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? And see me okay? Can you give me the thumbs up? Right, great. Okay, perfect. So, yes, great. Okay, so I've been having this treatment. There's not that many places in the UK that do it. And Sherina, Dr. Balaratnam, who is trying to get on this live now, is one of the few clinics in the UK that does it. Now, they launched this treatment just before COVID. So as you can imagine, it's, anything just as COVID was about to hit is a bit of a, yeah, thank you for saying you can hear me. Anything pre-COVID, launching anything as COVID was about to hit was a bit of a disaster. So it's taken them a sort of a while to get the word out. Anyway, there's me with my baby, my big heavy baby, the baby that's actually killing my back at the moment. And yeah, we saw it on the telly, so we tracked them down. Let's try. Come on, I've accepted you. There you go. That's better.
Take 3, Jo.
Take three. Okay, right. Why I've got you, because I'm good at small talk, but even I was like scrambling a bit there. Tell in a sort of EMSCULPT NEO, tell me why you, as a doctor and as a ex-plastic surgeon and as someone who is incredibly well trained in this area, but also someone who continues to educate themselves, why did you get so excited about this treatment?
Thank you, Jo. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be here to share the science, share the tech, and share my practice with you and your audience. I was very interested in most things and all things regenerative in my field. So you mentioned I come from a background of reconstructive plastic surgery, and that word basically speaks volumes, reconstructive. And what we do in my former life as an NHS plastic surgeon is we reconstruct and we regenerate. We work with burn tissues, scarred tissues, and we need to heal our patients so that they have functional results, so that they can move and mobilize and get through life as best as they can. And as well as you want them to look better. So there is an aesthetic component to what we did in the past. So I've always been driven and highly passionate about delivering both functional and aesthetic result. I don't operate anymore because I was highly interested in 2007 with the space that we're now in, the regenerative space. We used to call it the aesthetic medical space, but I call it with the regenerative space. And there was so much research and data and new things coming out with technologies and EBDs, energy-based devices that I just came to know about. So I guess when I now fast forward 10 years and I look back on my last 12 years doing this, it's all been about regenerative therapies. So I was excited about EMSCULPT as a whole because of the concept that you can bring a technology, put it onto muscle, stimulate it to 100%, and make new cells, make new tissue that's going to be healthier, number one, behave younger, which is great because then we can live longer and better for as long as we can.
Yeah, without sort of like everything starting to slowly decline in terms of, you know, our bone health and how we can actually, even sleeping sometimes is difficult for me with my back at the moment, as it has been. So when I had this treatment, I've had it in two areas. I've had it on my stomach at the front, and I've had it on my bum, right, on my actual bum. And the bum I had so that it could lift the treatment. The idea was to lift it a bit, because it was all going a bit sort of that way, and it was a bit flat, so to sort of perk it up a bit. And on my stomach, it was because I'd obviously had a baby 6 odd months ago, I think, when I first came to see you, and I had diastasis. Am I saying that correctly?
Diastasis recti, correct, Jo.
Which I didn't even know was a thing. And this is what I think is quite interesting. I'd like to talk about that in a sec, because I didn't even know it was a thing. I just thought my stomach, that was how my stomach was going to be, right? Yes. So what is the benefit of, because you can have EMSCULPT NEO on other areas of your body, on your arms and on your saddlebags, which is a really unpleasant thing to call them. But what exactly does it do? What does the technology do for layman's people? Because I've tried to, well, no, I haven't even bothered trying to explain it because I'll get it completely messed up. But just real layman's, what does it do?
Okay, so it's a great point. You know, how do we explain it? So this technology uses a type of energy called a high intensity focused electromagnetic wave. So it's a type of magnet. It's a magnetic therapy. We've heard of radio frequency, we've heard of ultrasound, we've heard of, you know, all these other things, lasers, light-based devices. So this is a magnetic therapy. And what this therapy does is it selectively targets muscle cells. That's its drive. And when it targets the muscle, it's driving it to work at 100% of its capacity. Now, you and I, Jo, when we exercise, we're probably only able as a human species to use about maybe 35% of our muscle capacity. When we breathe, maybe 35% of our lung capacity. When we think and we're firing at all cylinders, 35% of our brain cells. So very similar to muscle groups, when we're pumping as hard as we can, or when you're exercising, 35%. So what you now have is a technology that bypasses your brain, goes straight to the muscle, and makes it work and contract at 100% of its capacity. So back in the old days when I brought it on, a patient would say to me, I can get this at the gym. And I'll say, well, you can't actually, because as a human species, you'll get 35%, maybe 45 if you're The Rock, or 55 if you're The Rock. But as a human, we cannot. So this really bypasses everything, and that's why you get the growth of new cells. You mentioned diastasis recti, and this is really interesting because you mentioned being female, where we are, you know, post-pregnant, and you get that slight separation, weakening in the muscle, and then when you have twins and triplets, you potentially can have more. But I treat a lot of male patients with a diastasis type issue because they have been pushing a lot of weight for as long as they have without using the corsets or the guards for their abdomens. And then all of a sudden, fast forward 20 years into their 40s and their 50s, where they may have let themselves go, drinking beer, having a good life, maybe put on a bit of weight, and they suddenly emerge into their 40s and 50s with muscle separation. So these gentlemen can't exercise anymore because they're in pain, because they have a weak anterior wall. So they are ideal candidates for diastasis recti improvement too.
Yeah. See, what is it? So basically, diastasis recti. It's when the muscle. Is it when the muscle sort of separates?
Correct.
Away. And usually it's supposed, because I've been reading up on this, because I've been pregnant twice before, and it was, you know, I went back. Obviously, I was younger then. That's what, but I was still, you know, in my 30s. I wasn't exactly, you know,
Yes.
that young a mum. And then, so I didn't know it was a thing. And it wasn't until someone mentioned it to me. I think it was you that mentioned it on the call, because I couldn't work out why my stomach still looked like I was pregnant, despite the fact that I had worked out throughout my whole pregnancy, because I do, and I exercise all the time. It was just still like, it wasn't fat. It just looked like a bloat. Like it was really odd.
Correct.
And it wasn't until we spoke that I realized that thing that existed. So I think a lot of women possibly have this diastasis and probably don't really know it. How do you know it? Is it because we didn't we, like, it's here, isn't it? This
absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, when you take a picture, okay, let's just go to, I don't know, Hollister or, you know, one of those sites and check out the, you know, your svelte figure with the six pack. And we know that you can see the lines, not on our fronts, but the lines on our abdomen, you know, those nice sexy lines. And it's not the two lines there, it's the one right in the middle. And then you've got your belly button, and then it continues down again. So that's your six-pack muscle. It's called the recti, rectus abdominis. And that six-pack muscle has got these little intersections. Don't worry about that. But when we put on a little bit of weight, or when we're carrying fetuses or multiple, as well as if we have, you know, pump iron for as long as we can, we're putting a lot of pressure on that muscle. The beauty about our muscles and our body as a whole, it has a fantastic ability to recoil again, you know. But after a while, sometimes the elastic band snaps. And that's when the muscle just isn't able to spring back together in the middle. So it's actually pretty normal for a lot of people to have a separation just after the belly button at the top. And the way to feel that is to go on your back and pretend that you are flat and doing a two-leg straight leg raise. Okay, so you're putting some pressure on the abdominal wall, and take your fingers and just press right in the middle.
Here. It's here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So my belly button's like there, so it's sort of there.
Correct, yes.
I'm not showing anyone.
She has a, if I may say, Jo has a very beautiful belly button. So, you know, you're, but I want to get to that point, Jo, because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, I've watched you exercise on your channel, and you look very fit. So why would someone like you come and have a treatment like this? And it's because you have a natural loss of anterior abdominal wall tone. That is normal. It comes with normal aging, because we all lose 1% of collagen, 1% of elastin, 1% of hyaluronic acid. These are building blocks in the skin. We also lose 1% of muscle mass as we naturally age. So that's inevitable. So take that natural decline in ourselves, and then now add pregnancy, weight gain, weight loss, whatever it is. And at some point, that elastic band has just gone ping. So when you say you looked bloated, it's because you had this natural loss of anterior front abdominal tone.
Yeah, and that's what's quite interesting. When you look at my before pictures, you can still see where I exercise and everything. Like, you can see all the muscle line is still there.
It's there.
It's just basically become unnecessary. Now, most people, well, no, that's not most people, but it's natural if you've had a bit of muscle separation that it will go back after about 8 weeks or so. But for some people, like for me, it wouldn't go back because it was like quite a few months later. And unless you want to resort to surgery, which to me, it's not an option. I wouldn't do that. But that's why I had the EMSCULPT treatment. Yes. And so I came at it with a very healthy skepticism of, what this probably isn't going to work, but I'm going to give it a go anyway, and chuck some money and time at it, whatever. And actually, it wasn't until I really looked at the before and after pictures.
Yes.
That I knew it was doing something. I felt different. I could walk taller because of the work on my stomach was making my posture stronger. It was making me less curvy in the spine. I could see that my stomach was going down. I thought I knew it was doing things. I just didn't know to what the extent it was doing something until I saw the before and after pictures. Mm. Now, the before and after pictures, which I put on my post yesterday, there's been a few people that have said, oh, your tattoo looks in a different place, and it doesn't, maybe they're not like accurate pictures. And I quite like that sort of healthy skepticism, because it sort of suits me and who I am. But I think what's worth pointing out to that is that, first of all, I was there when I had those pictures taken, and I took my own pictures on my own phone. So I know exactly what I was dealing with before and after. And what you do that's so amazing is that you get, it's quite annoying, actually, I have to say. You get me to your patients to stand in lots of different positions at as much as you can get. Like, can you move forward an inch, so that you can get an accurate picture as possible. But the before and after, it's worth noticing, I was wearing a different bra. I was wearing different pants, because I wasn't wearing the same ones, thankfully. And it may have stood in a slightly different position, but they're accurate. And what I loved about the treatment is that you make your treatments very accountable, and I think that's admirable, because I've been and had lots of treatments by lots of different people, and I have never had anyone take so many pictures before and afterwards so that they can show you the evidence. So thank you for that. So let's bounce into some questions, because we'll talk a bit more about EMSCULPT, and then I just want to talk about general sort of transformative body treatments, because I want to know what I'm going to have next, right? Basically, I'm doing it for myself. So what someone has asked me or a few people have asked me is, will this treatment be effective if you've had a baby 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago and you've still got the diastasis?
Absolutely. And I say yes, because I treat patients like that every single day. I've got a patient who had a child 20 years ago, and she's having another one now. So it just goes to show, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, I've got patients who are 26, I've got patients who are, 48, and my oldest EMSCULPT NEO patient is 77. So this is a treatment for everybody. So I think age doesn't matter with this particular treatment. And
so it doesn't discriminate against age, right?
No,
we love that. Right. So you're never too old to get the treatment. Perfect. Now, does it what precludes you having the treatment done? If you've got, is there something that you just can't have it done, whether you've got a medical condition, or say you've got scar tissue from a C-section, something like that? Is there who can't have it, basically?
I guess the people that are unable to have it is somebody who also has metal work very close to the vicinity of treatment. So take, for example, your abdominal treatment. If you had any metal work around there, so belly button ring has to come off. If you have any metal mesh work, if you've had a hernia repair, for example, in your tummy area, you're unable to have that done. If you're having it done in your glutes area and you have had a hip replacement, then you shouldn't have it done, because obviously you're looking at an MRI type scenario. There's metal work there, and so forth. So area selection is key. We always take a great medical history before we treat our patients. That's very important. You need to take a full history and really consult your patient as well. But I just want to also say that this is evidence-based medicine, and you hit the nail on the head when you said that. I got really excited the fact that there were 7 clinical publications that brought this device to fruition, and that's unheard of in my profession. So I was very excited about that, because like you, coming from a world of reconstructive surgery, I'm cynical about most things, especially when they're in fancy brochures and you've got fancy pictures. And, I also think, has it been airbrushed and is it the right angle? Which is why the imaging is key. And I'm sorry to take so many pictures of your top and your bottom, but it's because I'm also cynical and I have to make this work. So photography is key, history is key, and but pretty much when you look at the clinical data, the evidence, and this was done across multiple sites in the USA, so by peer-reviewed publications, by physicians that I hold in very high regard. So being very cynical when I saw the data, the published, forget the brochure, I naturally wanted to have it myself, and I felt it. And when I felt it, I thought, this is something that I want to have. This is something I want my mother to have, my family to have, my friends, because it's going to make us age better as well. It's going to build new tissue. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I could live in your clinic, I have to say. Now, what's the difference? And this is actually, what's the difference between this treatment and, say, cool sculpting?
Okay, great point now. So we have multiple different technologies in the world of body sculpting. So let's take, for example, mine. Mine is a magnetic therapy. So there is no heat, so non-thermal, no freezing, so no cold. There is also no ultrasound, so different penetration depth. And then finally itself, you got to think about, is it toxic? Is it going to be bad for the individual? So this one is safe. So it's safe, effective. There's peer-reviewed publication, so tick, tick, tick. So it's a different form of energy wave. Let's just go now to freezing. So any form of freezing technology works in a different way. There is a cold component to it that's going to freeze tissue. That's ultimately what we're doing. So you got to think about what's going to happen with the tissue potentials. We know that freezing technologies like cool sculpting has been carried out by millions of practitioners and clinics all over the planet. And when you carry out treatments like that, they do work. You know, there's scientific data, there's peer-reviewed publications, we know it works. With most things, there's always going to be some level of side effect. I don't like to say that, adverse events. And everybody needs to be consulted to make sure whether it's going to be, freezing of the tissues, problems with the skin. We know it destroys fat, but what other effects have from that? I want to fast forward to this device now. This device, when they looked at the peer-reviewed publications, it just sounds too good to be true. There was no side effect from it. I have treated patients in the clinic for over 3.5 years now with this type of technology, with the original EMSCULPT and now the brand new EMSCULPT NEO. And short of actually having some delayed onset muscular spasms, DOMS, most patients have just walked out the door and been absolutely fine.
Yeah,
it sounds too good to be true.
It is non-invasive. It basically feels like it's a contraction, isn't it? But it's a contraction of the muscle at such a deep level,
yes,
that it feels like your body's exercising almost at its deepest level without you having to do anything about it.
Yes,
apart from just like that, right? But I think it's really important to say, and this is what is so important for me, is that this treatment is not a miracle, right? It's a great treatment, and all treatments, to some extent, that have this amount of data are amazing, and they're amazing technologies. But if you're just looking at it as I need to lose some weight, or I've got a big event coming up, I'll just get on it or whatever, and don't then use it as a sort of a jump start to starting your healthier, more active life, it's just going to be a waste of your money, isn't it?
Well,
in the long run.
In the long run. Okay, so I'm going to show you what happens as we naturally age. We're losing 1% of muscle. That's normal. So we call that, sorry, everybody. We call that sarcopenia. Sarco meaning the sarcoplasm, which is a muscle tissue, and penia, at a loss, okay? So we have osteopenia, bone loss. So we know we lose bone density. That's all clinically proven by scanning. So when you think about it, if we're losing inevitable muscle, think about our function as well. We're going to slow down, we're going to lose our posture, we're going to deteriorate, we're going to get pain. So why not we regenerate ourselves with these, what we call supramaximal contractions? These are the 100% contractions that you spoke about, so that we can actually look after our functional cells. So when I think about, and you mentioned about what if we don't exercise anymore? Well, we know from CT, MRI, and histology and biopsy studies, and this is relevant for anyone out there because these are punchy clinical studies. We know that in 20 days, you're actually seeing some fat loss. It's called apoptosis, programmed cell death, okay, cell suicide. And we know that we
I like that. I think you should trademark that, cell suicide.
Fat's on the side. So we know in 20 days, you're seeing some metabolic activity happening in that fat cell. You and I saw each other at week 5, which is just maybe a week after your final session.
Yeah.
And we could see that primary contraction of the muscle. It went bing, so we pulled you back up. We treated your glutes, so the whole thing just went up again. The restorative immediate was great. But we know when we look at the graph, the standard graphs of muscle build as well as fat loss, okay, any technology of fat loss, we know that that ultimate fat loss happens round about that 90 days. It continues to grow and plateau, but we get the patient back at 90 days. That's where the sweet spot is, whether it's skin tightening, whether it's fat loss, muscle build. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in 90 days. But I want to keep you motivated. That's why I also repeat the photo at 4 weeks or 5 weeks, because you've got to motivate your patients. You and I both know, you know, it's hard to motivate yourself. You're super motivated. But when you saw those photos, you're pumped.
Yeah, and that's what I think. It's that when something is, you know, there's certain things that are treatments that you can have and you can walk out of a clinic and immediately notice the difference. And there's some that take a little bit while to kick in, even something like Botox. It takes, you know, a good few weeks to properly kick in. And because it's gradually sort of working its magic, you kind of perhaps don't realize just what the transformation has been. Anyway, I might show my butt shot. I'm trying to work up the courage, and it's just knowing that it's going to live on, that it's indelible on the internet. But I might show you my before and after bottom shot. I've put it in black and white, right? Because I thought, just in case. So what other questions did I have? So if you are overweight or you're not an exerciser, you can have the treatment done, can't you? But you will get the best results from it if you use the treatment as a kickstart to exercising and whatever. That's right, isn't it? That's what it feels like to me.
Correct. Yes. Well, you know, what's really interesting about, you know, the evolution, and you mentioned about excitement, for me, it's all about the evolution of science as well. You never want to stand still. And what this also does is it literally now can treat BMI, clinically, BMI of up to 35. So if you actually think who you can treat, the vast majority of the population now. Yes, I think I showed you some before and afters of patients who hadn't done any exercise for a long time because they couldn't, because of lifestyle, because of pain management, sciatica. So these are patients who are functionally in a state after a skiing accident where they couldn't exercise. They came to me for help just to improve their muscle tone, and we treated their glutes, not to give them a nice perky bottom. I mean, they got that in the end, which is nice, an aesthetic result. But like you, there's a functional result. We're kind of stitching and knitting everything back together. So with that in mind, you're now seeing someone with a high BMI where you functionally knitted them together who can now function. So it's not just a motivation, there's a functional gain that happens for longer and longer and longer. So going to that point is, what if we choose not to exercise? Well, the data shows that you're going to build 25% muscle in 90 days. Why wouldn't you want that? So you could almost look at this like, sure, no one needs to have this. It's not for anybody, it's everyone. There's a level of investment because of the science. But fast forwards 90 days, you're now 25% up than the way you were yesterday, well, 3 months ago. And you can actually take your exercise to a whole new level. I see patients in their 70s and 80s, and as a population, we hope to live longer as well. So, you know, we really need to think about this from more a functional side as well as an aesthetic.
Yeah, I do. I just think if you've got an area of your body that is really getting you down, and it doesn't matter how much you exercise, or you want to start, or you're embarrassed to start exercising because it gets you down, then this is what it's perfect to treat, because then after you've had the treatment, you will feel confident to go into the gym or do whatever sort of exercise to get, and you'll want to, like, you've made an investment, right? Because it's not cheap, because the machines are not cheap, they're expensive. So that means the treatment is also not cheap, but you're making an investment in yourself, right? That's how I see it. And I'm not going to waste that by...
Don't waste it.
No, and it just makes me more, you know, it's like, well, I've done this now, so I want to keep it up. So let's talk about other sort of treatments. What about, like, what are you really excited about? Like, what, a lot of people still ask me questions about things like skin tightening on the body, particularly, you know, like around here, around here, maybe here, especially if you've had like a baby, because, you know, knitting them together and building muscle is great, but how, you know, you still got that loss of elasticity. What other treatments are you excited about, do you really rate and think are worth people considering?
Oh gosh, there's so much out there. How much time do we have to?
Tell me about the good ones.
Okay.
Tell me about what's going to tighten us up and make us look like we've been sort of shrink wrapped.
Okay, so I just want to add, actually, funny you should mention tightening on the skin of the abdomen, let's say. So I see a lot of patients with the crinkly tongue, post-pregnancy crinkliness. And I just want to add that the EMSCULPT NEO, the latest one, actually comes with a synchronized radio frequency. So we're not just looking at a high intensity focused electromagnetic wave anymore. We're looking at the synchronization of radio wave energy. So that makes the heat on top of the tissue indirectly stimulate collagen formation. It wasn't built for that. It was built to deliver the high fem energy deeper into the skin. So you get more muscle build and more fat loss, but you indirectly get some skin tightening as well. Further to that, we have radio frequency. I have a treatment called NDMEC radio frequency. Absolutely love it. I've done 2 treatments today. And what you get then is an elevation of temperature in the skin. And when you heat skin to what we call an optimized temperature of about 42, 43, you get this immediate contraction. So everybody on the day, when we sit patients halfway through, bing, and you can feel the tightening on one side compared to the untreated side. Have a protocol over and over, great clinical photography, 90 days, and you see again that regeneration of collagen happening and an organization of it. So it's matured. And you see not just a tightening, but you see a thickening in the skin as well. These are all FDA controlled devices. These are clinically proven.
So what is FDA? Just so if anyone doesn't like FDA, every time I see something that says FDA approved, I'm like, okay, I'll buy it, I'll have it. What is FDA?
It's the highest standard of safety and regulation when it comes to medical devices. Right. So they're not claims, there's no false data. You know, these are clinically proven devices. So I go for that. Doctors go for that. We enjoy.
So if you're looking at a treatment and it says FDA, it's like the gold standard.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Good. Okay. Because I always look, when I see FDA, I'm like, I'll have it. What was this other one? Oh, so toning we talked about. So radio frequency for toning. And what does that treatment look like? Is it, I've never had it. I don't know what.
Oh, it might look like. So you're looking at a platform of technology. Okay. You're looking at a platform, a non-invasive device. There will be a handpiece. The handpiece will have electrodes on it. It sounds scary, but my gosh, it feels like a hot stone facial, a deep hot stone facial. We apply some gel on the skin, so it's all non-invasive, can be used for all skin types, so it's what we call colorblind. So that's great. You know, we've really bypassed an era where some of our technologies can only treat certain skin types, whereas now you have this huge ethnic diversity of patients that you can treat safely, non-invasively, with very little or no downtime. And patients want that now and now, more than ever, because our patients are busy, they're front-facing, they have to look after families, and they just don't have that level of time.
They don't have the recovery time.
They don't.
And can you have that on your body as well as on your face?
Absolutely. So we have different handpieces. We have different handpieces for the periorbital area, we call the eyes, and we can lift the brow and really get under the skin to tighten. And patients love that because we definitely lose elasticity in this area, so we get hooding. And then patients love it also in their face, and especially in the neckline, because the skin here is thinner. Underneath the skin, we also have fat, and underneath the fat, we've also got muscle. So, you know, we think about what can we do to regenerate the skin, and we have injectables like beautiful things like Profilo to restore the hydration and the hyaluronic acid in the skin.
Yeah. Oh, good. We like a bit of tightening. What about if you've got like cellulite and it's just really stubborn and you can't get rid of it? What is there treatments that can be used for cellulite, or is it
$1 million question? Difficult one, Joe. You know, cellulite is so variable, individualized from person to person. Yeah. Hey, you know, my cellulite will probably vary from day to day depending on what I'm doing. So we got to think about all the causes of it, intrinsic, external factors. We've got to think of how much water we're drinking, what alcohol we're drinking, how sedentary we're becoming as well. you know, what are our medical conditions? So the history and the assessment are really, really key. I wish there was a magic cream or a magic pill that we can take and make it go away, but there has to be lifestyle changes that have to be addressed. And then finally, in-clinic treatments. I love a treatment that we have, well, I love a few actually, called the lymphostim. So these are, you know, the Wallace and Gromit trousers you've probably seen on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are slightly more scientific versions of that. And we wrap you, you need to try this. We wrap you up in them, and they're essentially almost like Flotron boots from the NHS. They massage you from the toes all the way up and squeeze the lymph, which contains toxins in the body. And we squeeze it up until the waist. It feels like a deep hug, and then it pushes it back into the lymphatic system in the middle. So you pass it through the system and you detoxify. So that helps with cellulitis, and radiofrequency helps with cellulitis. All these things need to be done in tandem, in combination. So I love treatment blending, but I think we need to be very realistic with patients when it comes to
yeah, I do. And also, you know, there does become a certain point where actually it's just acceptance, but do what you can. And I just think that, but it is horrific for people. It's the same as like things like stretch marks. You can reduce the appearance of stretch marks.
Correct.
You can't necessarily get rid of them for good. You know, it's kind of something you're predisposed to. Tell me about products. What no. First of all, tell me about like what should people or can people do at home? Actually, it's just exercise, isn't it? to improve things like skin texture on the body and, you know, treatment wise at home. Is there anything that we can do that would sort of be helpful? Like, is it dry body brushing maybe? Is it exfoliation?
Yes, there's a lot to be said with, you know, drinking the water intake. I see and treat a lot of patients every day, and patients think they're drinking a lot of water. Those 3 cups of teas or those 8 cups of teas is just not good enough. We do have to really pack in 2 to 2.5 liters a day. We just have to do it. Yeah. And when we think about what next to do, we need to start breathing better as well. We don't breathe very well. The tissue oxygenation, massage for the upper body, getting yourself a couple of jade rollers and focusing on lymphatic drainage. I'm sure if you YouTube manual lymphatic drainage of the upper face and the head and the neck and learn how to do that, we get patients to do this at home, because we do it a lot in clinic. So your in clinic and at home has to work in tandem to really drive results every day. So I love gua sha stones. I love jade rollers. They make a lot of difference to skin texture, tone, and the lymphatic drainage, especially around the eyes. I love topicals. You've been to my practice, so you know I believe in a very strategic topical remedy. And just think the colors of the rainbow or the alphabets: vitamin A, vitamin B, C, D, E. So when we think of vitamin A, we think of things like retinols. Now, I'd be very mindful about using retinols in everybody whenever we can, because when I think of a lot of patients presenting to me now, they're just buying stuff off the internet and they're looking quite strict and over-processed. Yeah. I think we can also just say, oh, retinol's good for me. I heard about it on your, you know, or anywhere. And they're putting all these wrong products on their skin. So do consult somebody. Do consult your facialist, your dermatologist, your surgeon. Do consult somebody who's got knowledge, who's got imaging that you can understand and learn more about your skin. There is so much value in now topical vitamin C. We know that these things are called antioxidants. They mop up what we call free radical stress on the skin due to sun and sugar and lack of sleep, for example. And we know that applying them is good on the skin. However, you know, is it the right concentration? Does it have anti-inflammatories in it? So we focus a lot on taking a great history, imaging, understanding the skin, and repairing the skin barrier with topicals and our high-tech facials.
And what are ice facials worth it? I'm asking for myself, because I've seen a lot of makeup artists do this, and where they will, you know, if you wake up really puffy because for whatever reason you've overdone it or you haven't slept well or whatever it is, to fill up a bowl full of ice and then put your face in, because apparently it makes all of the blood vessels and capillaries sort of shrink back, takes away inflammation. Does it do anything? Because when I think of cool sculpting, I think, okay, that is ice, obviously on a very high tech version. But is there any merit to that, to things like that? Or is it just a bit of even just as a temporary kind of fix?
Absolutely. I think a lot of things, when brought in transiently, actually create a lot of impact for us as well. If we were just the same, then we're not doing anything different. And we get a buildup of lymph. We also get deoxygenated blood just kind of statically staying in a place. And it's just because of biologically how we're made. So I'm all for things like using ice rollers. You know, here, you know, my colleague Cheryl Marshall-Williams keeps our rollers in the freezer. We keep our rollers in the freezer. So
I keep mine in my freezer. Yeah.
Brilliant, Joe. You know, and we're talking about at home. Just keep your rollers in the freezer. Keep anything. You can even buy these rollers that are a little bit more broad as well. And massage yourself first. So for those of you there, go onto YouTube, find manual lymphatic massage on the face, and then get out your cold rollers and give yourself some decompression, because you're absolutely right, Joe. That constriction and then that vasodilatation on the skin makes a huge impact to the microcirculation. I think there's a lot to be said with, you know, not over stripping. So I call it shipping and stripping. We're just shipping a lot of products in and just stripping our skin. By the time patients come to me, they're actually highly inflamed without even realizing it. And they're developing pustules and breakouts thinking it's acne. And it's actually not acne. It's a disrupted skin barrier that's now compromised. We have increased what we call transepidermal water loss. So we're losing water through the skin. And it doesn't matter how much you drink. It's just not staying in the skin. Because don't forget, the skin is meant to be an impermeable barrier, not letting anything in and anything out. And all of a sudden, we're losing this tissue fluid. And everybody's presenting dry, thinking they need Profilo and they need injectable moisturizers. And I'm like, no, we can't do that right now, because your barrier is compromised. So we need to focus not on shipping and stripping, and not on the vitamin C's, because it's too much for the skin. We need to repair. We need to heal and make the skin stronger before we do trigger treatments like radiofrequency and injectables.
And that's the same on the body as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, I really make an effort to dry body brush in the summer.
I think it's great.
In the winter. It's amazing. And it's, you don't need an expensive brush.
No.
Start at your feet, brush upwards. And it just really helps with that circulation.
It does.
But I would also say, like, things like, even I've really got into yoga recently, and I've done yoga on and off for years, but not really enjoyed it. But I really enjoy it at the moment, because I find when I've finished doing it, particularly if I'm trying to do a headstand or something like that, which I'm obviously rubbish at, the blood flow that goes to the brain, that goes to the face. And also, and another thing that I've done, I started doing this when I was pregnant, and I've just noticed it's so beneficial to your overall sort of health. It's just to lie against a wall and put your feet up against the wall.
100%.
And it just is, it helps you to sleep better. It helps with digestion. Like that one thing of doing, and I was only doing it because my legs were really puffy, and I just needed them. Because, you know, when we sit, we're not designed to sit, are we, human beings? We're designed to stand up. That's how we're physically, you know, we have evolved. We haven't evolved to sit on a chair all day and work, but, you know, that's what most of us do. So even by just lying against the wall, putting your butt as close as you can to the wall, lifting your feet up for 10 minutes, just letting it all, like, getting out of that position of just like feet downwards and everything going down, because that's how we get puffy and stuff.
Yes.
But I was amazed when I read about that, just what benefits you get just from putting your feet up, or from doing things like a headstand, just getting your blood flowing in a different direction. Yeah.
Direction is key. And you again, once again, you talk about the evolution of the human species. And, you know, if you think about the caveman days, we were meant to hunt for food and run away from dinosaurs and all those things that attacked us. So we're meant to be fast. And you get that microcirculation due to proprioception. Everything's working at peak performance. But roll backwards at that time. We're not designed to last that long back in those days.
Yeah.
We either got killed or we got eaten. So if you look at the evolution of the human species, we're now lasting, hopefully, a little bit longer, just purely because of modern day medicine. So when I think about the type of technologies that I've introduced into my practice, they're all regenerative, from the topical treatments that we do. There's clinical data. So I think for those of your audience out there who are interested in learning, it's really important to actually ask if there are clinical studies behind the formulations that they're using, because there are much more now than we when we had 15, 20 years ago. I never used to wear SPF 20 years ago, had no knowledge. And then when you think about other treatments, like take, for example, EMSCULPT, the clinical data behind that is significant, and there's more to come as well. And take, for example, another thing, we do a treatment called Saluma. Now that's a light therapy. And that's a light therapy that wakes up the mitochondria of the skin. I mean, who would have thought of that? You know, waking up the battery producing cells of the body. You're right, Joe, we are becoming more sedentary. We're running away from dinosaurs, and then now we're functioning, and now we're becoming more sedentary. So you have something that's actually reawakening the cells all over again.
Yeah, cell suicide.
That's
what we want. We want our cells, our fat cells, and not necessarily all of our cells, but certainly would quite like my fat cells to have be on a suicide mission. So, okay, amazing. Like I have to say that, you know, I think cynicism, healthy cynicism, is amazing. You are incredibly, you know, just incredibly accountable. You make all of your treatments accountable in terms of taking before and after pictures, whether that's a body treatment or you know, a skin treatment or face or whatever. And I think that's amazing. And I think that if you want to try, if you want to look at EMSCULPT NEO, I've had a really good experience with it. I've enjoyed the experience. It's not painful. It's made me feel differently about what I put in my mouth, how much I drink, and all of those kind of things, which has been incredibly helpful. It isn't cheap, it is expensive. The reason I can't tell you how much mine costs, mine's all wrapped up in different other treatments that I've just thrown everything at. And, you know, practice, it's very different. But if you are looking at something that is going to target an area that you're troubled by, that perhaps you either want to start to make better and then go on a more health journey afterwards, or you exercise like I do and it makes no difference because it just can't reach that spot, then it's definitely worth considering. And, you know, the areas that it works on are bum, stomach, side of thighs. Does it work on the top of thighs as well?
It does. It's got 9 FDA clearances now, so it goes full circle on the legs.
You can have it here.
Triceps, you know.
Yeah. What we need is for them to bring out one for the face.
Watch
so if
this.
you could have a word,
Joe.
I'll be over. I'll be back.
Joe, watch this face.
Oh God, I love a good treatment. I know there's some nice science behind it.
Yeah, but no, once again, to your audience out there, you know, it's never a one size fits all. I think you said it appropriately, Joe. Consultation is key. EMSCULPT NEO is there. And there is also the concept of treatment blending, whether it's the skin, whether it's for the fat, whether it's for the muscle. You need to consult that person correctly and actually share with them what's important to you. I never treat on the same day, never. And it's just because we need to really understand that person in front of us. We have a duty of care. We have a responsibility to our patients. And we need to really think what they're trying to achieve. So spending that 45 minutes or an hour with you, Joe, getting to know your history, your diet, your motivations, goals, assessing you, pointing out to you that you have a diastasis recti. You didn't do that. It is very important. Any consumer out there is to find someone that you can connect with, or a team, and have a great consultation and assessment.
Yeah, and then you'll get a great result. I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you for treating me, and thank you for being such a great help and like really enlightening me on what was happening with my body at a time when I felt completely out of control with it, because I'd carried a very heavy baby. I'd had quite a hard pregnancy, and it's really, I would have just lived with it, you know, I would have lived with it, and I would have got frustrated, and I would have, you know, exercised harder. I probably would have dieted too much, and none of those things would have been the right thing to do. So thank you for treating me. And I came to you with my bottom and you looked after that, but also my stomach as well. So thank you very much. And I look forward to us doing, what would be great is if we can do some more pictures at 90 days when the Neo is at its peak. And then I'll put these on here as well.
Wonderful, Joe. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure being a part of your journey. And, you know, I appreciate you giving your time to actually get to know the science.
No, you're great. I love, love, love your work. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. And thank you for everyone who joined. And if you have any questions, please do pop them in the comments when I've posted this live, and perhaps the doctor, when she's got some time, will shoot in and answer some questions. And yeah, because she's good like that.
I'd be delighted to.
Thank you.
Good night, Jo. Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.